Here's the question. Why is it? I'm going to put it another way. From the perspective of from the perspective of realization, I know this is self-obvious. I'm saying that from this side, from the not realized perspective. Why do we consider, or why do we sort of state, like, as a fact, that what determines whether or not a thing is real or true is whether it's permanent? I shouldn't even say a thing, but you know what I mean? Like, why is impermanence the thing that defines something as like, well, that's not the truth, or that's not who you are, that's not real? Why is impermanence a defining factor? And it's given all the time. It's like, yeah, but why is that? I can imagine in my mind anyway, things being real, just not being permanent. So that's my stumper of the week. And you can think about it. If you want to answer it here, then
Let's talk about it right now.
Oh, no.
Why wait?
No intention to monopolize this, but you asked, so
why wait? It's just a teaching. You know, the teaching that things that are impermanent are not real.
Not absolutely real.
Are not absolutely real. Yeah. Are meant to help lead you out of delusion. So it's not that they're not real. They're real. It's just they're not real in the way that you think they are. That's, and that's why teachings point toward their impermanence, that they come and go. They flit in and out of existence. They're not always there, and so that leads to the question, well, what is always there? And so it's trying to help you see that. At least as far as I'm concerned, all this talk of reality and unreality is just words. We can argue about the words all day. What matters is seeing the truth, So, everything that people say is unreal, it's we can say it's real, it's fine, but it's not the foundation of reality real. It's real in a relative sense, or a temporary sense, or an impermanent sense. It's an impermanent reality. It's an appearance. An appearance can be real, a real appearance. A delusion can be real, a real delusion. So that's what I would say is don't get confused by words. Look where the teaching is trying to point. That's the important thing.
See, Matt, this is why people don't ask you stumpers. They don't get any traction, That's a great answer. That's a great answer. I wish I'd been given that the first 2 times I asked it. Now I got to go back to square one, come up with another stumper. All right.
Thanks for the good question.
Thank you. That was a good answer, though.
And
interestingly, it's not just a good answer for that question, as it happens.
Yeah, right. It's a good answer for a lot of questions. Yeah, those are the best answers. You can just apply them everywhere.
Thanks. Bye.
Right. It's great. One answer fits all. Yeah.
Okay. So we are going to get started. And I have invited Barry to lead us through a prayer. And then right directly from that, Matthew will lead us into a brief dedication and then into a meditation.
Yeah, I'll do a medication.
I'm going to go get my benzodiazepines here.
Okay, well, thank you. So I combined 2 prayers that may be familiar to you, one from the West and one from the East. And I encourage you to relax and tune into your breathing. May we be instruments of peace. Where there is hatred, let us sow love. Where there's injury, pardon. Where there is doubt, faith. Where there is despair, hope. Where there is darkness, light. Where there is sadness, joy. May we not so much seek to be consoled as to console, to be understood as to understand, to be loved as to love. For it is in giving that we receive, it is in pardoning that we are pardoned, and it is in dying to selfishness that we are born to eternal life. Gate, gate, parasam gate, bodhi, svaha. Gone, gone, gone all the way over. Everyone gone all the way over to the other shore. Enlightenment, svaha.
Let's do a meditation. Inhale and exhale through your nose, eyes closed or open. Consider your intentions for meditating. Are you just looking to get some experience for yourself? Or are you truly seeking to let go? To die to selfishness, as the prayer suggests? Resolve to let go of yourself for the sake of others, and you will find peace. You will find eternal life, as the prayer suggests. With each breath, scan your body, bringing your attention to different areas. Breathe into any tension and release on exhale. Relax the whole body while maintaining good posture. Turn your attention to bodily sensations. The feel of your clothes, the weight of the torso and the limbs, the shifting pressures as you breathe. Feel all the different sensations. That's just sensation. Gather it all up and let it go. It's not your concern and will take care of itself. Shift your attention to the whole of the visual field. There's no need to focus on anything. Just see the whole field, whether the eyes are open or closed. That's just vision. It's only an image. It doesn't need to go away, but just let go of it. Shift your attention to the whole field of sound. Notice all the little sounds as they come into awareness. That's all just sound. You can let go of that too. Let it do its thing. It's not your concern. Turn your attention to any thoughts flittering through the mind. Thoughts about the future, the past, the present. Big thoughts, subtle thoughts. It doesn't matter. They're all only thoughts. Whether they appear or don't appear, don't concern yourself with them. Let them all go. We're just sitting here. Nothing needs to change. Without changing anything in your present experience, let go of all of it. Free yourself of everything. As you come out of the meditation, take note of how you feel, what sensations you have. And if you experience any measure of peace, remember this feeling, remember this place.
Thank you, Matthew.
Thank you. And thank you, Barry. Wonderful prayer.
Yes, thank you. That was beautiful. And the first part was just a beautiful um, reminder of the selflessness behind why we practice and why we try to get somewhere out of ourselves.
Or nowhere.
So we were given last week the phrase, without changing anything, free yourself of everything now. And nice job working that into the meditation, Matthew.
Thanks. That's the least I could do.
And there's some sense of continuity between the assignment and the meditation. So I really hope that each of us worked with that phrase a little bit, thought about it, and bring some questions. So I've written some down if we get bogged down, but I'm going to offer the opportunity if anyone had anything that came up during the month or during the meditation. Now is an opportunity to mention it, talk about it. Doesn't have to be a question, but if there was some question that came up, throw it out to all of us and to Matthew.
Okay, mission accomplished.
Okay, well, I will get it started then. So, I want to say that, Matthew, I think, said to everyone that this little phrase is a complete teaching. If you can work with this, it is sufficient. And I will say that Matthew and I, we spend an hour and a half to 2 hours every week talking. And for 5 weeks, this phrase has been our launch pad. It has been what we've started with. Matthew, and yesterday we talked for 2 hours. So it's not like we've run out of parts of this. So I'm going to just throw out a couple of questions that came up. Let go of everything. Let go of everything. Letting go and everything. What do you mean by that, Matthew?
Let's maybe first say what I don't mean by it, because I think for many people, not us, of course, but many, for me anyway, when I was young and thought about letting go of attachments and so on, I always imagined if changing things, say I have to get rid of all my possessions, or I have to leave my family and go to another country, or I have to, go sit in a cave or something, shave my head, or whatever it was. We get lots of ideas about what we need to do in terms of changing things with regard to letting go or letting go of attachments. But it turns out this isn't at all what the path means by letting go of attachments. I mean, these things can happen. We can do these things as like gestures or like a practice of letting go, but it's not actual letting go. You can just think of a kid who's 18 years old and gets this idea in his head. I've got to, go off to give away all my possessions, leave my family, go off to a cave in the Himalayas and meditate to find enlightenment, right? Now, is it going to work? I mean, maybe, but the point is that just doing that is not letting go. In all likelihood, this person will take themselves with them. See, they will take all their internal conflicts with them, all the things that made them want to run away, to find something. He will take all those problems with him, and when he gets to his cave, they're going to come up, and he's going to realize, I didn't get rid of anything. I still have all the same problems. As the famous saying goes, wherever you go, there you are. Well, when you're the problem, running away isn't going to help. So, so it means something different. We have to, in some way, it's not about severing external connections. It's about letting go from the inside, from this end. It's really about letting go of yourself. If we try to let go of the external things, there's no end to it, right? There's 10,000 different things out there, and there's more all the time, and if we started to get rid of things that way, there would be no end to it. So it really amounts to letting go of yourself, letting go of everything from this end. And at least in my experience, that's the only way that really works, that really gives the full meaning of what the path is talking about when it's talking about letting go.
So I need to challenge you, Matthew. Dave and I have recognized that shaving the head is it has worked for me.
Fair enough. Like I said, they can be helpful. It's not.
You said to me once, I'm trying to remember, attachment is what makes the ego.
Yeah, that's all it is. It's a bundle of attachments. When you let go of it from the inside, it's like you dissolve the glue, see? And you see, well, there was never really anything there to begin with, just a bunch of stuff kind of accumulated. It's like a dam in a river. After a storm, all the trees wash into the river, and branches and leaves and mud, and they all get stuck. The river gets dammed up. That's like the ego. So you got to go out there and kick at the logs and shake the things and sweep the water, disturb everything, and then you got to leave it alone, and things allow the water to carry all that stuff away.
I have a question. So you say letting go of you, and I was thinking, well, what if you say letting go of your sense of you? Like, maybe that's, in my mind, that makes, because I think of letting go of me, then it's my sense of self means that's sort of all the things I build up and think about. But if I think I'm letting go of those, but I'm still going to be me.
Are you?
Maybe not.
Well, this is an interesting question. So when you think of what's different in your mind? When you think of letting go of me, how is that different than letting go of your sense of self?
It seems more manageable if I say my sense of self, because those are but letting go of me just sounds like that's so big.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I would say that these are not equivalent, but they're two like they're two. That's a two-step process. If you're willing to let go of the sense of yourself, by all means do it. You will start to see that it's okay to let go of yourself altogether. Yeah. And or another way to look at this is it's just words, like we're talking about with Mark's question. It doesn't matter how you frame it. What's important is that you do it. is that you really try to let go. That's what's important, not how you express it or whatever. Some people say let go of the ego. Some people say let go of your sense of self. Some people say let go of yourself. Some people say die. Die now while you're still alive. See, that's a more direct way of saying it too. But really, actually, all those are, basically getting at the same idea. They're pointing in the same direction, and it's the direction that matters, not the words.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Matthew, can I ask a question?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So, what is your relationship to Matthew currently?
I don't know. I don't have that's a true stumper. I don't even know how to answer that question. In order for there to be relationship, there has to be something separate. When nothing is separate, there are no relationships. There's just the one reality. So if I'm perfectly honest, I don't have an answer for that question. It's almost like a nonsensical question to me. It's very interesting when back in 2016, when I had my awakening, I told Mark about, I don't know, 3 weeks after, and about what had happened. And I remember he asked me, how would you define yourself?
Mm.
And I said, I wouldn't. I don't know who Matthew is. There's a famous Zen koan with Bodhidharma. Maybe I've told this one before. I like it. And Bodhidharma is the founder of Zen and brought Buddhism to China. So he goes to China and he's appears before the emperor, Wu.
Mm-hmm.
And Wu has known about Buddhism and has built monasteries all over China, Buddhist monasteries. And when Bodhidharma comes and he sees this holy man from India, he says, look at everything I've done. Look at all these monasteries I've built, all these monks and practicing Buddhism. What merit is in it? And Bodhidharma said, no merit whatsoever. and the emperor, as you can imagine, because he was championing Buddhism, was kind of disturbed by this answer. maybe even a little angry because he had put a lot of effort into building all these monasteries. And he said, well, who is it who comes before me then? Who are you? Who are you to say this to me? And Bodhidharma says, I don't know. And the emperor still doesn't get it. And he sends Bodhidharma away, and he goes off to a cave and cuts off his eyelids and stares at a wall for 9 years, yeah. Anyway, I don't know.
Did that answer your question, David?
It sure does.
I want to turn the question back at David and ask who he is. Who are you, David? How do you know who you are?
Thanks, Christy.
Yeah.
No, it's a real question. It's like, how do you know who you are? What is it that gives you you?
Yeah. Well, I guess when it gets down to it, I have a similar answer as Matthew. However, I also am probably more entrapped than he is in identifying with roles that I'm temporarily playing on this level of reality that get me. So my answer is when I say I don't know, it's not totally a pure answer. That's an answer where it's kind of an intellectual answer as opposed to a deep experiential answer.
But still going in the right direction, I would say. To admit
Right.
we don't know.
I'm doing my best, That's all I can say. Like everybody on the screen.
Yeah.
Isa, you had a question.
Yeah, I don't want to sound no disrespect intended, Matthew.
None taken.
But a follow-up is, so who are you married to? Do you have a relationship with your wife?
Well, I'm not married, but I am in a relationship.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
No, I mean, but because you said you don't have a relationship with Matthew, but you are in relationship with your partner.
Yeah.
So how is that different, or what is that about? Do you know what I'm asking?
It's no different. It's no different. It's just it's just, what are we talking about? If we're talking about the truth, the absolute reality, then everything is one. There's no relationships between anything. Or you could say everything is interrelated. Everything is connected to everything else. And then, so this is, we could think about this in 3 layers. The top layer, the highest layer, is absolute oneness, absolute unity. There's nothing outside of that. There are no separate things. So how can there be relationships? It's just one truth, one reality, which is that. Second layer, we could say, we can admit things, but say all things are interrelated. Everything is intertwined. Everything affects everything else. Throughout time, all throughout space, everything is interrelated. And the metaphor is Indra's net. It's like a net, and at each intersection there are pearls all through the net, and each pearl reflects all of the other pearls. So anything that changes within that changes everything else. Everything is related. Everything is interrelated perfectly. Even the things farthest apart are just as interrelated as things right next to each other. The third layer we could talk about is just the relative world. And in that sense, I'm in a relationship, and that relationship is no different from the relationship you may have with your partner, that's just is what it is, So there's I'm this body and this mind is also like your body and your mind living on that level too. So all these kind of layers exist simultaneously without contradiction.
So would you say that these layers are distinguished by increasing degrees of impermanence?
Yes, I would. Yeah, on the most relative level, there's the most impermanence. Yeah, things appear and disappear all the time. Emily has just appeared. She's out there. I can hear her.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Mark?
You probably didn't see it, Matthew. I sent you an email or a text
Oh.
right before. No. You don't have to see it now. I'm just saying. What I'm about to say. I sort of wrote to you that something came to me this morning as I was waking up, and it relates to what we've been saying so closely to me that it seems interesting that it just happened this morning. But before I say it, I just want to speak to what the question just was about you and your relationship to things. For a while, like 5 years, I was the newsletter editor for the Center for Sacred Sciences, and I had to write up certain things and whatever. And periodically, someone at the center, Joel, would recognize them as having awakened or having had an awakening, and they would give an account. Like a meeting would be called, and they'd give an account of their awakening. And many times there'd be similar things said between the accounts, even though all the details are different. And the one I remember the most is this woman named Annie, who said towards the end, I still can't figure out how I can be completely different and be so much the same person as I was. Like, how could both those things be true? And I'm like, keep talking, and that's all she could say. I even asked her, she's like, just like that. I can't explain it. It's just like I'm the same and I'm completely different, and both exist like that. So I thought that kind of koan of an answer was very similar kind of to what you just said. It's like it's all connected and there's no way to parse it really.
Yeah. It's interesting. That's the without changing anything part, to get back to the teaching.
Right.
Without changing anything.
Which brings me back to my little, I don't know, like a little aha. It seemed like a little aha this morning. I was just waking up. I personally love the 7 to 9 slot in the morning. Like if I'm still in bed at 7, I just go back into whatever. And it's like really the deepest, most, I don't know. So I was in the process of getting up. It was like almost 8, quarter to 8. And I was floating there and there was a lot of spaciousness. All of a sudden I got really spacious, but I was just waking up enough to know, well, what is that? What's not there? What's making this space? And I thought of, I don't remember exactly what the aphorism was, but I thought about my body and my mind and my life. And I'm like, oh, my is missing. That's what it was. It's like nothing has to change. You don't have to get rid of anything. It's the my part that's the thing to be seen through, or the thing to be just. I thought, oh my God, I'm just going to write this down. I'm just going to put up my life. Just put X around it, and my mind.
Right? The life is fine.
fine.
Just get rid of the my part.
Fine.
Yes.
It's only the possession of it that where problems happen.
This is exactly what I mean. This is, as you say, exactly what we were talking about.
Right.
Letting go from the inside, not from,
Right.
you don't have to get rid of your life. That's not the point. The point is to get rid of the my.
Right. And even not having, sort of awakened this morning and seen through it all, there was something really it was like a relief. It was like there was a burden of not having to do all that other stuff, of getting rid of anything. It's just like, oh, just leave the Maya. Like there was almost like no effort instead of like all the, I don't know how to say it this morning. It was just, it felt like a revelation. I'm like, I gotta get up now. But it was really, it was special. I thought I'm going to definitely make this a focus because it just seemed like, I don't know, conceptually, it helps to have like a kind of a way to put my mind in a certain direction, and this to me was the big one. So
Yeah.
I offer to you just,
I would say go with it. See, I think this is brilliant insight and good direction to go in. I would say it's precisely what we're talking about. Without changing anything, free yourself of everything.
and for what it's worth, I did not see the last email and I didn't know what the topic was going to be tonight until tonight. This didn't come from that, which is even more interesting. I just kind of like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Sometimes it just comes together at the same time.
If you watch closely, when you start to wake up in the morning, there is this period of time where that my does not exist. You haven't actually remembered who you are yet. And there's even a period of time when the world doesn't exist. You haven't remembered it yet. And so if you pay attention to when you start to awake from deep sleep, you will see kind of all of these things start to come into being, start to appear, a feeling, and then, a sensation, and then a thought, and then and then you say, and then, it all, and then the whole world, it all comes into being. You recall it all. And same when you go to sleep at night, you can watch all of these things start to drop off. When I was in college, I was doing a lot of weird experiments with practice. I was doing things like meditating while staring into like an old CRT television set to static, And if you stare into that, it would suddenly become this like three-dimensional vortex. All the snow, the static. It would become three-dimensional, and then you could visualize shapes in that. They would appear. You could make circles and triangles and geometric shapes and all kinds of things appear in the static, and so I was doing weird things like that. And one of the things I did is I had a tape recorder, like a micro cassette recorder. This was in the 90s. and I would go to sleep with this micro cassette recorder on my chest, and I would just start talking, describing what I was experiencing and what I was seeing in the darkness behind closed eyes. And as dreams started to appear, what I found is, I would go on narrating quite far into a dream, and I, when I listened to it the next day, I didn't remember half of the stuff that I had said. That's very interesting. Anyway, these transition states are quite interesting if you pay attention during them. Yeah.
I'm going to bring us back to the teaching without changing anything. Matthew, can we change anything?
Yeah, that's kind of That's a deep question. You know, um, again, if you even if you get the answer to that question, that's it. You know, that can take you all the way there. Because in order to understand, can you change anything, you have to understand change, and you have to understand what you are. So you have to investigate. What is change? What are you? What is volition? What are decisions? How do they happen? And the more and more you look into it, the more mysterious it is. How can you change anything? Everything's already happening exactly as it's happening. You know, if I raise my hand, I could say I changed something, but did I? I just raised my hand. That was it. That's what was happening the whole time. I could say afterwards, you know, oh, well, I could have raised the left one, but I didn't. Whatever you do, I put it this way, I'll put it as a question to you. Is there any possible way that you can not do what you're doing in the present moment?
Hmm.
There's no way out. The only way that we create a way out is by projecting, by imagination, by projecting ourselves into an imaginary future and into an imaginary past. But in the present moment, there is no way you can not do what you're doing. Whatever you're doing it already. You're thinking, the thought is already there. The movement is already there. Whatever you do, you can't not do it. You're already doing it. So this is, this is a place to seriously investigate in your own inquiry.
And something else you and I talked about was, and I'm going to try to remember, like the stream, like we experience impermanence, and things seem to always be changing. But there is this also stream of phenomena that is just ongoing, which I think is, you know, what you're sort of saying, that we can't change anything, that this moment just keeps on happening.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure what your question is there, but there is, yes, the flow of consciousness, the free flow of consciousness. See, that's the danger. See, like if you start to get what I'm talking about in terms of you can't change anything, you know, people jump to conclusions and they say, oh, well, there's no free will then. That's what that means. We don't have any free will. You know, so we're like robots, you know, we're like automatons or machines, you know, and that's jumping to a lot of conclusions without, I would say, doing a thorough investigation of what's going on. You know, that conclusion is still relying on old conditioned concepts and views. To have free will or not free will requires an independent entity that could either possess it or not possess it. Find out whether that entity really exists. Then decide whether you have free will or you don't. I would say everything is completely free because nothing can be changed, because everything is as it is. It's totally, completely, and always free, freely doing what it's doing, whatever it is. See, it's completely free, totally spontaneous, not bound by anything.
Joel likes to say, there's absolutely free will. There's just no self-will.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, that's the same thing in a more pithy
Pithy way, yeah.
encapsulation. Yeah.
So what is freedom, Matt? Oh, Kristen, go for it.
Without changing anything, free yourself of everything now. So everything is already changing. Free yourself to me makes a sound like I need to do this action.
Right.
So that doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
Yeah.
Please,
Yeah.
please
No,
elucidate.
if you get the first part, the second part takes care of itself. But I understand what you're saying, and if you think about it like that, it will be problematic, right? Because you'll be trying to because freeing yourself of everything entails most importantly is free yourself of yourself. That's what I was saying in terms of you can't free yourself of everything by getting rid of 10,000 things. You can only do it by getting rid of yourself. That's the only way to free yourself of everything really is to free yourself from yourself. And you can't do that as you pointed out as a volition, you can't free yourself of you. Yeah. And so there's a kind of like an impossible problem that we're put in, an impossible situation, a kind of living Zen koan that we are thrown into. And the only way out of a Zen koan is not by any volitional action or constructed answer, but by spontaneous clarification, spontaneous letting go, spontaneous release, spontaneous freedom. So, we just wrestle and wrestle and wrestle with that until the mind gives up. Then out of nowhere comes deliverance, peace, freedom, clarity, wisdom. Yeah.
That resonates along with the Vajrayana practice. You practice and then you sit in that open awareness and wisdom.
On my path, at some point I read somewhere something about insight, that you couldn't look for it. You could just wait for it. And that was, I think, very helpful to me. It's still a long way coming, but
Thank you. That's great.
Yeah, thanks.
Barry, any thoughts or questions?
Thank you, Bruce. No.
I love it. Thank you, Barry.
That was a thoughtful answer, though.
Wonderful answer. Yeah. Actually, reminds me, I was, before meeting today, I was thinking, I don't have anything planned this evening because I've been thinking about this talk I'm giving on Sunday. So I pulled this book out, which, is partly where I stole this phrase from.
You got to read it to us. It's too small.
This is a book by Wolfgang Kopp who's a Zen guy, German. This book is called Free Yourself of Everything.
Ah,
So I was just glancing through this book, and there's he's constantly telling various Zen stories. At some point, he tells a whole series of stories about students asking Joshu about what is the one word, the one, like the ultimate word, the word of, the one word that expresses the truth of Zen. And in one of them, Joshu just goes, yes. He has a lot of different answers. In one, he just coughs, and another, they're all a lot of different wonderful little Zen stories.
so Matthew, in some sense, our sense of self are sustained by our thoughts, our conscious thoughts, and a lot of our unconscious thoughts. And you've described that you see, to me, that you see through these thoughts as just not different from anything else. And yet many of us, those thoughts create expectations or hopes or beliefs that are very difficult for us to be free of, to liberate. So the question is, advice maybe on the sort of the containment that is created by our thoughts, our containment or sustaining of ourselves.
So the first thing that I would say is that thoughts are not the problem. So this is like the things, 10,000 different things. Do I need to get rid of them all? Do I need to get rid of all my thoughts? Now, that can be a interesting exercise that could lead to insight, trying to get rid of all your thoughts. But it's truly not the thoughts that are the problem. It's the identification with the thoughts, identification with the sensations in the body. Right? We have sensations in the body, and then we think, oh, that's me. See? We identify with that sensation, and we create that sense of me in the body. The same with thoughts. The thoughts appear, and we identify with the thoughts, and we create that sense of me in the mind. So the sensations in the body, the thoughts in the mind are not really a problem. They don't need to be banished or anything like that. What we need to break is the cycle of identification. To see, I'm not going to say it's easy, but what's needed is to see how that cycle works.
Yes.
How do we become identified with the thoughts? To see it in action. If you can see it in action, if you could see it happening as it's happening, you will see that you are not that. You are not your thoughts. You are not the sensations of your body. Because you can see it's just a process of identification, of becoming identified with those phenomena, and you create that sense of self. So it is a process that's happening all the time. That's why earlier I kind of point to those transition states between sleeping and waking. When you fall asleep and when you wake up, these are little sort of hiccups where this process takes a break. And so you can look for insight at the edges of that process. The same is true with meditation. When you go into a deep meditative state, a lot of these cyclical identification processes become thinner. The veil thins, and there's more of an opportunity for that insight to see, oh, that's just identification. And that, leads to clarity. You're clarifying what is going on when you can see things as they are happening, and not be projecting into the future and the past and living in this created sense of a view or a concept, what I call a conceptual experience. Isa, did you have a question?
I did,
Yes.
but go ahead.
I don't understand who then does the attaching and the grasping and the identification. If there's no self there to begin with, how does that happen?
How does anything happen? How does water flow downhill? How do leaves fall from the trees into fall?
Gravity.
It happens, everything happens according to the same power. It's the same thing that makes all things happen. You could say it's consciousness itself at play. You could say it's the will of God. You could say it's the Tao. It's quite mysterious. So I can't say too much about it.
Mark, you had a question. And then David, and then Christy, I'm going to give you a chance.
In some of our private talks, Matt, we've agreed, especially early on when you were sort of like, starting to embody, your realization, like in terms of teaching, certainly there's nothing more to do than figure out how to put words to this thing that you can't put words to. Like, it just doesn't quite work, right? To me, this thing we're talking about right now with identification and the process of identifying and how it happens and who does it and whatever, this is one of those things. And this is actually what I was trying to dial into yesterday in this conversation that ended up being like, okay, you just can't ask one of those questions because it doesn't go anywhere, but it should. This, to me, the process of identification is really like at the heart of our inquiry, it seems to me.
Yeah.
And so having a sense of how, why, what this mechanism is, and here's why, and then you'll respond to this. The process of identifying with something, by definition, means you're kind of telling yourself a lie, or you're sinning. You're missing the mark. You're not recognizing what's happening. That's what identification is. It's like you're making an association with something that's not real, right? But if you were aware, you couldn't do that. So something is happening that's allowing this sort of like this lie or this mistake to happen in real time. Discovering that, what's allowing that to happen, is almost like one of the linchpins of this whole thing. Because if we could, like, you could say, well, if you could see through it, but the reason we can't see through it is because this other thing is happening, this other mental aberration, or this other kind of leaping over what's actually here. I can't put this into words either exactly, but I'm just pointing out that to me, this is like really one of the kernels of inquiry.
Okay. Good question.
I wrote this down. This was going to be the stumper for Sunday.
This is a stumper.
Yeah.
So this is quite complex, sort of. But look, this identification process, it's hard to explain, is itself avidya, ignorance.
Right.
It happens through projection, projecting yourself into the past, into the future. In the present moment, if you could dive into now, this present moment, without any projection whatsoever, there is no identification. There's just complete clarity. So it's constantly like being created through a projection, through what's called avidya, non-seeing. It's willful ignorance. We're creating it. As I said, it's consciousness at play. You could say, oh, we're being fooled or something like that, but that's just one way of looking at it. Another way of looking at it is you could say, we're having a wonderful life. We're experiencing a fantastic, crazy adventure. There's nothing wrong with that. It's exciting. It can be scary. It can be painful. It can involve a lot of suffering. A lot of suffering. But we're doing it. We're doing it all. We got ourselves into this mess. And if we went on out, we got to get ourselves out. If you want a kind of technical model of how it works, you could study the 12 links of
Conditioning.
Yeah, or independent causation.
Yeah.
That model, that teaching is meant to try to explain that, but it's pretty complicated. It's easier just to go straight to the truth, straight to the now, and see you're doing it all, and you can see through it instantaneously. You can only see through it instantaneously. As soon as you start to project forward or back, imagine a future, imagine a death. Well, you're already in, being reborn in samsara.
David.
I'll just make a quick comment because we're almost out of time. I'll give it to Christy. So, in my own simplistic way of joining this part of the conversation, I would say there's a couple different channels that I function on, and one is, channel 2 might be I'm identifying with myself as an ego. Channel 1 is I'm identifying with the one. Like if I'm eating food, it could be me feeding myself. David getting food. On channel 1, though, it's the one feeding the one. It's consciousness aware of itself, and so it's playing with these different channels for me, and I'm trying to stay on channel 1 more and more. But I'm on channel 2. Before I know it, I'm on channel 2 again. So I flick back and forth.
Just see that you're the television.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just playing with the
matter what channel you're on. You're the TV itself.
Yeah. Right.
You're the screen.
I wrote a song like 25 years ago that spoke to consciousness aware of itself with loving care. And I got it way back 25 years ago. I'm still working on it. I'm still working on it. But anyway, pass it over to Christy to kind of, we're about out of time.
I'm just soaking it all up. I could ask so many questions. Let's see which questions come out. Matthew, would you say that before awakening you're like an actor who forgot they were playing a role, and now you are aware of that fact because you still, I mean, you're physically present on the level of physical form, and your body's moving. So wouldn't you still say that there's something animating you, something continuing your presence? And what is that? Is that the just do you act for us?
No, I'm
No, I don't mean that in a derogatory way. I meant like, you're aware that you're everything, but you're able to sort of step back into I know how to play Matthew Lowe's. I've played him for most of my life. I can play him again.
Yeah, no, it's not like that. It's not like stepping into a role or stepping out of a role. I mean, this is a common metaphor, and there is something to it. The idea, this comes from, Indian tradition. There's this tradition of God being like an actor and playing all the roles. And so, yeah, I mean, there's a sense of, I suppose with awakening, yeah, there's a sense of seeing that what you thought was a real self, your ego, wasn't real in the way that you thought it was. You could describe that like acting, but if it's acting, it's genuine acting. You're really doing it. You're the best method actor in the world. But I don't make a distinction myself. I don't make a distinction between states, between like higher state and lower state, or knowing that I'm everything and yet playing this part. It's just consciousness moves freely. It's endlessly adaptive. It's completely free, and it's everywhere. And so, what's making me happen? What's making I often liken it to, like I could liken my voice to like the sound of a gurgling stream. See, it's the same thing making me happen that's making everything else happen.
And you're relating to the environment where we're all asking questions, and that's sort of creating who you are. If we all just went silent, there wouldn't be a lot of you there.
we could all just sit in silence.
Exactly. If we just sat in silence, there'd
Yeah.
be less of you there. And the same is to be said about us as well.
Yeah, I have a much easier, like as I've told Bruce, I have a much easier time if there's a question. I have if there's no question, I don't know what to say. There's no problem. So it helps when people have questions, because then I can respond to that. So it's not, I hear what you're asking, kind of like, maybe you're asking kind of like, what is my experience of?
Well, kind of, I was thinking it's more of a matter of levels, that a tree is a very physical experience, but a tree is also the clouds and the sun and the light as well. So it's like a levels thing. And at one level, you have flesh and water inside of you and microorganisms on your skin.
Yeah. I still I still eat and take care of my bodily functions, and that's what I was going to say. It's not like anything particular. I don't want to make it sound like, in a way you could say, look, it's nothing special. I'm just going about my business. This body and this mind is just doing what it does. Now, fundamentally, I know I have this awareness that I am not fundamentally this body or this mind. That's the part that sounds special. But actually, this is true for all. So I am aware of that. I can't describe it. I can't say what it is. It's everywhere. It's awareness itself. And I'm aware of that. And that is, you could say, what we really are, and what I would say I really am. I'm not this body or this mind or this voice or these actions. I'm that which is that awareness, that which is everywhere, that which is making all things happen, including this. You know, I'm nothing. That's what I would say. I'm nothing at all. Nothing at all. Fundamentally. But on a day-to-day level, look, I'm just a person like everyone else, and I'm just going about my business, you know?
Well, thank you for showing up today.
Thank you for showing up today. It's so much more fun and interesting when we all show up and we can share this life together.
Well, I want to thank everyone for showing up. As David has pointed out, our hour and a half is over. I want to, great discussion. There's in teaching, there's an aspect of, the words and the teaching and the meaning, and there's also this thing of transmission, which I have no real concept of. But I want to say that in one of my conversations with you, Matthew, we ended and you said to me, Bruce, we are one being. And I had this instantaneous feeling that indeed you and I were one being with every being, with everything. So, that's what you're saying here, is that while we that aren't awakened feel like we're our individual separate selves, we are one being. And so I want to end this with a blessing that may our one being move forward, may our one being recognize itself, and may our one being take this awareness further and deeper, and to benefit all the parts of this one being, if there are parts, all aspects of beingness, and may, to the extent that we can, may we dedicate ourselves to actions and kindness and thoughts and prayers that just benefit everything. So thank you. So we will set a time with Kaizen. Please, if you're in town and you can come to the teaching, or come and see Matthew present on Saturday.
Saturday? Yeah. If you're in town, I'm giving a talk at the Center for Sacred Sciences on Sunday.
Can either you or Mark put the address out?
I'm going to add it. I'm going to put it into the chat right now.
Okay, perfect.
Because I just gave it to someone recently, so it's in my copy there. And the way you get there, just so you know, is you drive all the way up Donald, all the way till you get to the top or bottom. You get to Fox Hill. Fox Hill. Make a left and another left, and you're on Saratoga. It's right there. It's easy.
And Matthew has he's finished a draft of his next book, and in that draft is a chart or diagram or something, Venn diagram, I think he calls it, but it's like a taka. It's teaching, and I think that he's going to send me a copy of it, and I will send it all out, and it really maps sort of the stages of practice, which really we're all at all the time in each stage, I think. But we're going to be talking about that at our next gathering, Zoom. So that I don't have to ask anyone, does anyone on this call now want to lead us in the opening prayer? Commit to that now. Isa, my eyes are falling at you.
I'm happy to do it.
Oh, I love it when I ask and it comes out in a positive way. Barry, thank you for your prayer.
Wonderful.
Yes. And, you know, I just want to remind everyone two things. One, if there are any lingering questions or thoughts, email them to me. And we can work them into future discussions. And because many of us are aging or our minds aren't quite as sharp as they used to be, it is better to do it sooner than to say, "Oh, I'll do it tomorrow," and then you'll never do it. You'll forget. And then final thing, Matthew has a website, and on that website there is a possibility of making a donation to him. So if anyone has that inclination, and there is no expectation that anyone ever does that.
Another thing that you could do, again, no expectation, but if you have read any of my books and have any thoughts about them, honest review, whatever, if you post a review on Amazon, it's very helpful to me. The more reviews that get posted, it helps the book be found by others. And so if you found the book helpful in any way, you could help others by helping them find it and help me at the same time. So,
and I want to say, if you have not read these books yet, and they're just wonderful. That the first book just rocked me and helped me. So they're definitely worth taking a gander at.
Matt, is your fourth book out yet?
No, that's why I'm just finishing it up. In fact, I maybe talk to you soon about that if you want to have a look at a draft. That would be helpful.
Sure.
But yeah, so I'm hoping to get it out by the end of the year. Since that's what I kind of promised in the last book, but that's what I'm shooting for. It's it's a book about practice. It was actually in a lot of ways harder to write than the previous books. But I think there's some good things in there. So hopefully it's helpful to somebody.
Yeah. All right, Kristen, you're a beautiful being. Everyone, you're a beautiful being. We're all one big beautiful being. See you all in a month. We'll again. I'm gonna, if things come up for me or in talks with Matthew about this chart for you to look at and incorporate into your inquiry, I will continue to put those out. I know that some of you like looking at those, and some of you probably don't, but because I've had like 3 people say I like those comments, Bruce, I'm going to keep doing it.
Thanks, everyone.
Yep. See you all in a month.
Thank you all so much. Have a wonderful night.
You.
Yeah.
Thanks, Christy.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good seeing you.